think so far I'm the only one on.
Number. I have a contact, but can you get me her number?
I will look, but not right now. We're on shift. Shavuot
Oh, Ernie didn't come in yet? No.
Tov.
That's a
Good luck. Yeah, he's coming from Pico, so
Yeah.
All right, yeah. The project for me.
I got my horse. Is that him? Oh, that's Mario.
Hello,
Hello.
how was your Shabbos in the trial
Very
town?
nice. Very nice. That was in Pico.
You were in the happy.
Yeah, I was in Happy Minion. Yeah.
You see how happy we are?
How was it?
Very nice. Beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Lots of people there. Lots of people.
Really, it's a small place. no?
Was there a specific event or a scholar in residence?
No, just to go for Shabbos.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which shul is that?
It's called the Happy Minion. It's
yeah.
next door to Yick.
What's the happy girl's name?
Oh, the Happy Girl? I mean, that's Ernie's. That's Ernie's granddaughter.
Mazel tov, Ernie and
Hi.
Sue.
Yeah. What's the
Mazel
name?
tov.
It's beautiful. I know the name. Leah Rochel
Oh,
Shir.
new baby. Oh, my
Beautiful.
God.
Happy
That was so
mother.
nice.
What's her name?
Shiri, very nice.
Leah Rachel,
Pretty name she has.
Leah
Leah
Rachel Shiri.
because
Yeah.
Leah is after Susie's mother, Rachel is my mother, and Shiri is this woman who was
Yeah,
the
so
mother of those babies.
God.
No
Diva.
way. Oh, my goodness.
Bibas.
Wow.
Wow, that's
They gave her,
awesome.
and wow,
Yes.
So nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
that's incredible.
It is.
Yeah, Ernie.
Chaim was there.
Yeah. Ernie, I have your site tonight from my father. Yitzchak ben
Yitzchak.
Kohen was Kalman the Kohen.
It should be a
Find him as Kalman.
What are they gonna call him?
Aliyah.
His neshama should have an
Aliyah.
aliyah.
an aliyah.
What are
Some-
they?
someone I knew-
Zchut.
Someone I knew very well.
Yes.
And Harold got his sense of humor.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was
From
very.
But only Yiddish.
Could you
Only
tell us something about him? Something else about him, Harold?
Well, he-
Well, he was born in 1897.
Where?
In the Carpathian Mountains, a village called Studena, which
the
no one seems to know where it is.
Karpaten.
Karpaten?
The Karpaten. And it was not far from Munkach, I think. But
Ah,
so he was married, had 6 children before the war. And in 1937, he had a brother, my uncle, who lived in America. So the plan was he would come to America first and then get enough money to bring the family out. but the plan obviously didn't work. He came and then they closed the border and that was it. So he lost his wife and 6 children. And then he married my mother. My mother was in Auschwitz. She ended up in Chicago. She had family there and they met. I don't know exactly how they met, but they got married in Cleveland, in Chicago, and they're married in 48 and I was born in 49.
Wow.
And then everyone met Ernie.
And actually, he was a soldier in First World War. In
Yeah.
the First World War.
And the
Whoa.
Czech army.
He was in
The
Italy.
Czech
He was
army.
stationed in
Wow.
Italy.
Yeah.
Yes, he was
Yeah.
stationed in Italy.
And wasn't he next to you in shul?
He was a gabbai.
And
The
yeah,
Gabbai,
He was the gabbai by Rabbi Uri Shul, Young Israel of Beverly Hills. I
Yeah.
started laning when I was right after my bar mitzvah. I became
Yeah.
Korah there.
Yeah.
And he supported me a lot because
when you first
it was,
learned
yeah,
how to lay,
I had to lane. In Hillel, we learned, Aleph
Miftah.
Bet Gimel. We didn't learn Torah Semes. We learned Torah Emet. But there were Rabbi Brisman was the librarian at the UCLA library. He was a big Talmud Chacham.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his sons are Dayanim in Lakewood today. Big
Wow.
He said you
Rabbanim.
had to say
Yeah.
it.
They would stop me. People stop if you make a mistake in pronunciation of a word. But they would also be concerned if I didn't say the soft properly. But Harold's father would protect me and
Wow.
stop doing that. Yeah.
Good
No.
enough. Good. It's good.
Shavua tov.
Shavua tov,
Yes.
everyone.
So I tell-
Nothing.
We were with the
Leora,
and
Isaac, and your
all of the
beautiful family.
grandchildren.
What's your
Got a
granddaughter's
lot of
name?
names.
Leah, Rachel, Shiri.
Who are all these people?
Leah is Susie's mother.
Yeah.
Rachel is my mother. There's already the fourth
And
Rachel.
who's Shiri?
Shiri is this woman.
Biba.
Bebas,
the
Shiri
mother of the
Bebas.
Oh, that's
Oh,
nice.
Oh, that's nice.
What are they going to call her?
But I saw another 2 names. Raquel.
No, her name
Well,
is
Leah is
English
her English name is Ayla Raquel.
Ayla.
Ayla.
Okay, now what do you tell the teacher?
Ayla.
Ayla. Ayla.
Ayla.
Ayla is
The
like
Raquel
a
with the-
Leia, like a Leia,
Ayla,
It's
like
like
Layla.
Leah. It's
Eric
like-
Clapton. Like Eric. And how do you spell Raquel? With a Q?
Yes,
Oh, it's
like
Spanish.
Rachel, but the way it's in Spanish.
Spanish.
It's a good
Spanish.
Scrabble one. A lot of points in Scrabble.
Because of the Q.
Yeah. Everyone should be well.
That's
Mhm.
right.
That's the main thing.
Nice.
Okay,
We're almost done.
it's unbelievable. We are reaching the final climax of Sefer Melachim, which of course is going to be the Churban Abayis. And we are right on the heels of this. Everything that we learn on Tisha B'Av, we're going to be right in the midst of it. And it will actually continue in Sefer Daniel, which many of us have not learned. And like what happened after they went to Bavel with Nebuchadnezzar. That's a gap. We pick it up a little bit by Esther. Purim, right? We benched Chodesh Adar today. But Purim picks it up after the Persian Empire conquered the Babylonian Empire. So we're gonna learn the chronology. We're gonna go through Daniel. Then I think we're gonna go through Esther, but learn it in with Chazal and see how and then eventually how Koresh allowed them to come back, and it leads us to Ezra and Nehemiah. So that's, I think, the chronology we're going to take. Now, you notice we're learning a lot of Divrei Hayomim. Divrei Hayomim is a recapitulation of a lot of what we've learned. And many times when it's relevant, we go through the Divrei Hayomim psukim that are relevant. So I think that's why Divrei Hayomim is not necessarily learned as directly as I say. We could down the road, consider that. But I think that's going to be our next progress. Daniel, Esther, and then Ezra and Nehemiah. Again, many of us have learned Esther, but not necessarily with the Chazal. The first 12 blot of Masechta Megillah deals with all the Agadata from Esther, which again, I don't think we'll get there before Purim, but we will have that under our belts at some point. Okay. We are now in Perek Chaf Gimel, Pasuk Chav Beis. Yoshua Melech, let's just place ourselves. Yoshua Melech found a sefer, after they did a Bedek Abayis, after they wanted to do a remodeling job on the base of Mikdash, they found a Sefer Torah. It's a debate, did they only find Sefer Dvarim, or was it a whole Sefer Torah? And it led to a huge Baal Tshuva movement. Now, there was already a Baal Tshuva movement going on even before they found the Sefer Torah, but it intensified it. And we talked about that they did another bris, they did a covenant, and we talked last week that they declared, they had a Korban Pesach, they made the Korban Pesach, and we discussed the connection between Avodah Zarah and Pesach, and how it's really on Yom Tov that talks about abolishing Avodah Zarah. And we talked about that this parak, Chav Gimel, Posuk Aleph, Vaishlach HaMelech, Vaisvui Lav, this is the Haftorah for the second day of Pesach. Obviously, we understand its connection now. And Chav Beis tells us, Ki lo nasa ka Pesach hazeh, mimei hashoftim asher shaftu es Yisrael. This Pesach was the greatest Pesach that hadn't been seen till the time of the Shoftim, 400 years prior. B'chol yemei Malchei Yisrael u'Malchei Yehuda, and all the kings of Israel before, from the time of Shmuel HaNavi. Even David and Shlomo. So it seems like what they didn't offer the Korban Pesach. They did. They offered the Korban Pesach. What does that mean? That means Rashi says lo niskaptzu rov am b'chol Pesach kamosh niskaptzu b'zeh. Remember, you have sholosh regalim means you have a special mitzvah to go with your feet. They didn't have Uber then. They didn't have El Al then. You walked to Yerushalayim. That's why it's called Sholosh Regalim. You walked with your feet. A special mitzvah. Now, not everybody could leave their environs outside of Yerushalayim and come to Yerushalayim. So what Rashi tells us, this Pesach, the greatest crowd came together in Yerushalayim for the Pesach. And we are reminded by Shmuel, we're reminded by Rashi, that in the time of Shmuel, he also gathered in the mitzvah. Remember when he was going to warn them about a king? So there was a gathering at the time. That's why it says B'mei HaShoftim. Now, obviously, after Rechavam, the son of Shlomo, during his time, Yeravam ben Nevat, had separated the 10 Shvatim to the north, so all of Yisrael were not together in Yerushalayim because it was divided. And there was the Egel that Yeravam had set up in Beis El and Dan. Now the Aseret Shvatim have been exiled. Now we do have a pshat that according to Yirmiyahu Navi, he brought them all back, and Yoshua Melech was the king over them. And therefore, they all came to Yerushalayim. It's another reason why it's lo nasa ka Pesach hazeh. In Divrei Yomim, Rashi says that the king Yoshio and the officers provided animals for all the people that they needed, for both for the Pesach and for the Shalmei Chagiga. There is the Korban Pesach is a sheep or a goat, but usually sheep. You can't use cattle for Korban Pesach. Now, the Korban Chagiga was a korban that had to be offered every yontif, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. That was a korban shlomi, right? You have a korban chatas and a nosham that's brought for aveira, and you have a korban shlomim. The difference there is everyone can eat from the meat of a korban shlomim. It's a korban. It has to be shechted in Beis Hamikdash. The blood has to be thrown on the mizbeach, but the meat is brought home to the family and eaten. You can eat a shlomim within the environs of Yerushalayim. A chatas and an osham, the meat can only be eaten by male kohanim, not females, male kohanim within the Beis Hamikdash, in the Azorah. Couldn't be taken out. but shlomim. So when we say, what is the afikomen? Is a dessert. So the meat of the Korban Pesach was eaten as dessert after your regular meal. What was your regular meal? The Korban Chagiga. That means they made a roast. It was beef, ribs, or steaks, or French roast. That was your meal. Then the Korban Pesach was roasted. That was a sheep, that was lamb, and that was eaten as dessert to the meat meal. That's we have to understand. That's what Pesach was. Now, we don't have the Tzarenu Arav, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. So we don't offer the Korban Pesach as it. So we eat a piece of matzah as the afikomen. But you have to recognize that first they ate meat, as they ate the Shalmei Chagiga. By the way, there was two Chagigas for Pesach. There was Chagigas Yudalid and Chagiga Tesvav. That means the night of, they shechted the Korban Pesach in the afternoon of the 14th of Nisan. But the meat was eaten that night. So usually the Chagigas Yudalid was the meat that they prepared for that feast. They had a Chagigas Tesvav, that was what they ate during the day, the next day. So one of the reasons they say that this Pesach was never done this way, because the king and the officers provided all the meat for them. The Radak says, you can see the Radak, Shayu Kol Yisrael B'Leiv Echad Lavodas Hashem. That what made this Pesach unique is the Jewish people's hearts trying to return back to the Avodas Hashem. Like it says by Shmuel, Vayani Kol Beis Yisrael Achrei Hashem. There also it says, Vayasiru Bnei Yisrael Sabalim Misashtaros, Vayavdus Hashem Levado. Now, during the time of Chizkiah Melech, there was also a Korban Pesach that he did, but not all of the Jews were there. It was more now. The Malbim says that previous Korban Pesachs were not done with Tahara. This one was done with more Tahara because they had gotten rid of all the Avodah Zaras and all the Bamais. During Shaul and David, there were still Bamais. And they were there during the time of Shlomo and Chizkiah. It's only now that it was done with pure Tahara. Pasuk Chav Gimel. So when Kiyim B'Shmon Esrei Shana Melech Yoshio, this 18th year of Melech Yoshio's reign, Nasa Pesach Hazel Hashem Yerushalayim. That's when this Pesach was done, celebrated in Jerusalem. There is in Divrei Yomim, Beis, Perek Lamed Hey, much greater detail regarding this Pesach. It says, Vayishchetu ha-Pesach bar-basar l'chodesh harishon. Vayameda kohanim al mishmarosam, and the kohanim were on this, where they're supposed to be. Vayomer lal v'im ha-nevinim l'chol Yisrael kadoshim l'Hashem. Tnu esaron ha-kodesh b'bayis asher bona Shlomo ben David melech Yisrael. He gives a strange command, Yoshua Melech, to the Leviim. And he tells them, put the Aron HaKodesh in the bias that Shlomo Melech built. Sounds like Yoshia's grandfather Menashe and his father Ammon had removed the Aron from the Kodesh Kodashim. And now Yoshia is commanded to put it back. However, the shaila is, we know that Yoshua Melech already became a Baal Tshuva way before this. Why would he wait to do this until the 18th year of his reign? He would have done that right away. So based on that discrepancy, it's very important, everyone should remember this. Here is where Chazal learn that Yoshio commanded that the Aron HaKodesh be buried. And that's like, so from this time on, there was no Aron HaKodesh in the Kodesh Kodashim. And it was hidden deep in the bowels of the Beis Hamikdash. So that when Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians sacked and destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, they did not take the Aron. The Aron remained hidden. And the Aron is there today. By the way, Divrei Yomim, it says that they had 30,000 shloshim elef tzon. That's how many sheep they had. And shloshes alofim bakar that was just what was given from the Rechush HaMelech. I mean, other people brought their own stuff from their homes. He commanded the Levium to prepare for the Jewish people. Rashi over there in Divrei Yomim points out that Yoshua Melech is trying to show a tremendous shinui from his government to the previous governments. During Menashe and Amon, everything was done for Avodah Zarah, and the money that was spent for Avodah Zarah. But now he's showing them that no, it's for Akrovas HaKorbanos.
By the way, on the Harabais, the Azara, all the animals were kept was huge. It's really big, even today. So you can understand that when he talks about all those animals that were brought, it could be possible that they were storing them there because it's very...
a massive, massive place. Now, Rabbeinu Bachai in Dvorim Yud, Pasuk Aleph, has an analysis. Why Dafka is Yoshua Melech hiding the Oron? What about the menorah? What about the Shulchan? What about the other Kelim? Now, by the way, it's not related to our story, but those of you who've been to Rome and you've been to the Arch of Titus, so you see the image that is graven in there is they're carrying away the menorah, and it's a seven. It's not like the Rambam describes the menorah. It's a 7-thing menorah, not 8. Anyways, but that's already by Sheni. So we're talking about why Dafka did he hide the Aron? So the Rabbeinu Bachai says, She'ein lecha mekudash umu'ula b'chol ha'kelim kamo. It's the holiest of the kelim. We're talking about the Aron. Kishem shu kodem lekulan b'maisa kachu mekudash mekulan. We just explained Parshas Truma, Mincha Shabbos, which is next week's Parsha. What is the first command given? What kli are they? Vasuli Aron Atzei Shiti. The first kli that is commanded to be made is the Aron. Says Rabbeinu Bachai Shehu Dugma L'Kisei HaKavod U'Ma'on L'Shechina. It's like the throne of Hashem. Vashchina Davka La'olam Im Aron. The Shechina is connected to the Aron. It's like physically connected. That's why we say that really the Shechina was not there by Sheni, because there was no Aron by Sheni. V'lachein b'Bayis Sheni lo haya ba'Aron. There was no Aron by Sheni. U'cheshechaser Aron chaser Shechina. Now, we know that there's some Shechina, because even today, they say that the Koisel Maravi is the one spot in the world that the Shechina is still Nogeya bo, because that's the remnant of the Beis Hamikdash. Ulefi shaya Yoshua Yodea Shabayis Atid Licharev Al Yedei Nebuchadnezzar. Yoshua knew b'nevuah that the bias was going to be destroyed. V'anevim shebiyavim misnabi v'tzavchim mechein. It's no surprise. Yirmiyahu Hanavi, Chuldan Hanavi, they were going around announcing this. Hayadavar barur et slo shekol hakelim iglu leBavel. He understood that all the kelim are going to end up being exiled to Bavel. Lefichach chas al kavod ha'aron le'iluy v'ratzon legnozo. He didn't want the embarrassment for the Aron to be taken captive, so he hid it. That's reason number one. V'hasheni shira'a ba'aron siman hanesi'ah. The Aron itself was a symbol of travel. Hu shabadim sherichu b'mei shlomo niskatzru b'yamov. V'chazru lo samida shay b'mei Moshe. The Aron had rings, and there were these staves, sticks, poles that were through the rings. Because remember, the Leviim You have to carry the Aron by human hand. They carried it by their shoulder. During the time of Shlomo, they had lengthened them. But they saw now through miraculous that it got shortened. I'm going to translate it. There was a curtain that divided the Aron, the Kodesh Kodashim, and the regular Heichal. The poles stuck out into the curtain like the Rabbeinu Bechai, like a woman who's, you can see Shnei Dadea from her begadim. This is there's metaphors here, because the Shechina's female in some ways. And when they would come in, they would see the Shnei Dadea Isha. Val Shnei Badim Elu Yizkir Shlomo. This is what Shlomo HaMelech in Shir HaShirim refers to when he says, Shnei Shadayich Kishnei Afarim. Your two breasts are like, so it's a remez to the Kodesh Kodashim and to the poles. When these poles miraculously got shortened and they came in and you didn't see them sticking out into the parochas anymore. V'chazru klapei pnim. Hayu Yisrael nichnosim v'lo hayu ro'im oisam. Yotzim uboltim in a parochas keminag. They stopped seeing these sticks sticking out. They returned to the size that they were during Moshe Rabbeinu. V'hikir Yoshiyahu bazeh she'aron mezuman l'nesiyah u'miskanes v'holech. The Aron is preparing to go on a travel. Rosh k'shenichnas Chilkiah kohen avodah zara be'echol shematzah sham sefer Torah shemitzad Aron bris Hashem sheyatzad ha'echol v'hikir b'zeh she'eis os l'golos l'chod beis hamikdash. This was a simon to Yoshua Melech that the Aron is going to be taken prisoner.
Is this
Ernie,
the same Aron?
Fascinating.
Who's gonna be taken prison?
Again?
Is this the same Aron from the Plishtim that they captured?
Yes. The same
So-
Aron. Aron that Moshe Rabbeinu
So
created.
after the Plishtim got the Aron and they got so embarrassed and they get it back, why they have to hide it? The Aron know how to protect themselves.
So I'm going to read Rabbeinu Bechai again. Leficha chasal covered the Aron le'ilui v'ratzu l'gon. He felt it was going to be a bizoyon for the Aron to be taken prisoner and taken to Bavel. Tzvi l'maisa the Aron was taken to Plishtim. So yes, they got hemorrhoids. They sent it back, but it was taken, and it was a bizoyon that the Mishkan was destroyed and the Aron was in the hands of the Plishtim.
Ernie, isn't it true?
Yoshio wanted to avoid that. You know, Tzvi asks good. The Aron can take care of himself, but it's still a bizoyon.
Ernie, isn't it true that in addition to the Aron being buried, they buried the Ketores and also the Mate Aron and the Kalim that held the Mun? All of those things were buried at, I don't know if it was Yoshiyahu, but at some point they were all no
Well, those
longer.
were kept, Bernie, those were kept in the Kodesh Kodashim next to the Aron. So I just read you the Rabbeinu Bechai word for word. He doesn't say that it's in Senesaman and the Mate, but l'chora that, I don't know if we have a Masorah like that, but maybe. I don't remember going through Shas that way, but it could be. The Aron was definitely buried. Whether the other, and therefore the Luchas were in there. Now, the Tzitzena Saman and those things were like next to it. Maybe they were buried too. That I can't say. We have to find some other sources for that. But it happened here, and during this episode, I read you the pasuk. I read you the pasuk of the Levium. Vayomer Tnu es Aron HaKodesh Babayis, and we learned that it can't be Lipshat, so it was Lidrash. Okay, Chaf Dalet. Any other comments that anybody wanted to say? No. The Gamet HaOvot v'Tayidonim, we just, those in the Daf Yomi, we just learned these were Avodah Zaras that were unique. The Ov was a person would show up and you would ask him, you want to hear the voice of somebody who had died. like a seance, like Houdini used to do. That was fake. Or that was fake too. I don't know exactly. That was, and the voice of the dead person would emerge from the armpit of the person. So that's Balas Ov. Now, the person who participated in that, he would be killed with skila. If two Adim saw him do that, now the person who asked the question is also punished with Malchus. The Yedoni, there's the Yedoni bird was I think it's an ostrich. They put this bone in the person's mouth, and again they would ask, "I want to hear the voice of my dead relative," and the voice of the dead relative would appear, would come out of the bone. That's Ovi Yedoni. Vesatrafim vesagilulim. And the other idols, Veskola Shikutzima Sheniru Be'eret Yudav Yushalayim, Bir Yoshio. This sort of sums up what Yoshio did in getting rid of the Avodah Zarahs. Leman, why? Akimas Divrei Torah Ksuvim al Sefer. In order to fulfill all the words that on the Sefer that Asher Matzah Chilkiyahu HaKohen Beis Hashem, that his Kohen Gadol had found when they did the Berek HaBayis. And a beautiful pasuk, Chafei, V'chamohu lo haya lefanav melech, and before him there was never such a king. Asher shav el Hashem v'chol levavo v'chol nafsho v'chol ma'odo, that had done tshuva to Hashem with his heart and his soul and his money. Kechol Toras Moshe v'acharav lo kam kamo. There was nobody before him and nobody after him. That's what the pasuk says. Now we learned a similar pasuk in Perek Yud Ches regarding Chizkiah Melech, where it said, "Va'acharav lo haya kamou b'chol malchei Yehuda." That was we learned by the midah of the bitachon that Chizkiah had. Now, when it says Asher Shav el Hashem, so some hold, like we've learned this before, that he did sin and only later on did tshuva, but others say he never sinned. And the Radak asks, Hey chaya Yoshio gadol mikol hamlachim asher hayu lefanav. How do you say he was greater than all the kings? So the Radak says, Hey sir habamot asher l'Hashem v'lo yashir echad. He removed all the bamos, even the ones that were built to Hashem. He didn't leave one. V'lo hikrivu biyamav kim bebeis hamidrash levado. The only place that korbanos were offered were in the Beis HaMikdash. The only time that it happened. Even by David and Shlomo, there were bamos that they were still offering on. V'hamlachim asher lefanav afal pi she'em behem tovim. Asa Yehoshaphat lo yasiru abamos. Right? It says by Asa, achabamot lo saru od. Ha'am mizapchim u'mekatrim babamot. Now, by Chizkiah Melech it says Hetzir Abamot, but he had other Chesronos. Now, by Asa he leaned on Melech Aram, and he gave him gold and silver from the treasures of Hashem. And when he got sick, in Divrei Yomim it says V'gam b'chalya lo doras Hashem ki barofim. He didn't daven to Hashem; he wanted to go to doctors. So you see, there were doctors then too. The Yehoshaphat, his problem was he aided the Malchei Yisrael, the Rishonim. He got married with them. Remember, by Chizkiah it says V'lo chigmol alav eshiv Chizkiah ki gava libo. Remember that his heart was hardy. Vahi alav ketzef, and Hashem became angry. But Yoshio it says Kechol Toras Moshe.
So the Abarbanel, I can just read you 2 cents about the Abarbanel's interpretation, where he says Chizkiah was the greatest in his trust of God, for he experienced the greatest test and stood firm. Yoshio was the greatest in careful observance of the Torah, in spiritual perfection, and in adherence to God.
Okay.
Sounds like they were both
right. That
deserving of the credit.
Good. Tremendous nisyonos. The Malbim says Chizkiah never removed the egels of Yerava, and Yoshio did. Now, with all of this great compliments, we're going to see it wasn't enough. And we're told right away, Ach lo shav Hashem mecheron apo hagadol. But it did not lead to Hashem to turn away from his great anger. Asher chara apo b'Yehuda, whose anger was towards Judea. Al kol ha'ka'asim asher yichisu Menashe. The grandfather Menashe, the one who was chote umachti, and was machis and lost his shir in olam haba, even though later on he did tshuva. Hashem cannot get over that. And the gzeira of the churban, even though Yoshua Melech did tshuva, was not removed. And we learned last week that Klal Yisrael secretly continued to worship Avodah Zarah. We told the story that on one door, when the inspectors would come in, they would see no Avodah Zarah, but it was on the back door. The Ralbag says, B'li safekim ha-Yisrael shavim l'Hashem b'chol nafsham hayta hashgacha ha'hi davka b'hem v'yishov charon apo mehem. The Ralbag says that if the Jewish people, along with Yoshua Melech, had done sincere tshuva, the Churban wouldn't have happened. Ulazos hasiba gan kein meis Yoshua b'vana'am. We're going to see soon that Yoshua Melech is going to be killed. Ki hu chashav shayu kol Yisrael ochim achrei mitzvos Hashem yisbarach. He thought that Klal Yisrael was following along, and that they would be roy for all the blessings that were written in the Torah, where it says cherev lo tavor bartzachem, afilu cherev shel shalom. He thought that somebody who's traversing his land, not necessarily fighting, and that's called cherev shel shalom. He misinterpreted that. He thought that the Jewish people would merit v'cherev lo savor bartzachem uv'cheta ames. He died because of the sins of Klal Yisrael. Pasuk Chav Zayin. Vayomer Hashem, gam es Yehuda asir me'al panai, kasher asir osisi Yisrael. I will remove the Judean people from my face, just like I removed the 10 tribes. I've had enough of the city that I chose, Yushalayim. And I'm disgusted with this bias, whose name is supposed to be, this is supposed to be the house with my name. V'yeser divrei Yoshio, v'chol asher asa, halohem ksuvim al sefer divrei yamim l'chei Yehuda. Other actions, like I read some of them, are written in Divrei Yomim. And there's an epitaph. B'yamav ala Paro necho melech Mitzrayim al melech Ashur al nahar Pras. Paro is the king of Egypt. Paro necho, he limped. Nechei raglayim is like somebody who limps. So he was called Paro necho. He wanted to do battle with the king of Assyria by the Euphrates. And he had to traverse through the land of Israel. Vayelech HaMelech Yoshua likraso. Yoshua Melech mistakenly went against him. Vayimiseu b'Megiddo kiroso oso. And he was killed in Megiddo when Parnacho saw him. Yoshua went to try to prevent him from traveling through. There are more details in Divrei Yomim. It says, Achrei kol zot asher echin Yoshua zabayis, Allah Nechom melech Mitzrayim lilachem b'karkarmish al pras. Paro Necho, the king of Egypt, went to do battle to the Euphrates. But vayetzei likrato Yoshua, vayishlach elav malachim lemor, mali valach melech Yehuda. What are you and I, the Egyptian king says to him, what do you and I have to do with each other? I'm going on my own battle. But he tried to fight him. And the archers shot arrows at Melech Yoshio. Vayomer HaMelech lavadav haviruni kechleti me'od. Take me off the battlefield. I've been wounded. Vayavireu avadav min hamerkava. Vayarkiveu al rechav hamishneh shelo. Vayalchu Yerushalayim vayamad. And he died. Vayikaver bikivrot avotav. He was buried in his forefathers' burial place. V'chol Yudav Yerushalayim mitablim al Yoshio. And there was a great avel for Yoshio. The Radak explains, based on the Gemara in Masechta Tainis, what happened here? Because Yoshio darshan, one of the psukim in Sefer in Vayikra by the other Tochacha, it says one of the blessings is cherev lo savor barsachem, afilu cherev shel shalom. Kivein shayu osim etzor shel makom. Yoshua Melech thought that the Jewish people were doing what they were supposed to do. V'hu lo haya yodeh shekol doro of de avodah zarah hayu. He didn't realize that secretly they were all still worshiping avodah zarah. El hashayu osim beseiter. The Gemara in Tainis says, Chav Beis Amid Beis, Amr Rabbi Shua bar Nachmani, Amr Rabbi Yonasan, Mipnei manen ash Yoshio. Why was Yoshio punished? Mipnei shahayaloli molech b'Yirmiyahu v'lo nimlo. He has the great Navi Yirmiyahu around. Why didn't he go ask Yirmiyahu Navi what to do? My darash b'cherev lo savor barzachem. No sword will travel through your land. My cherev. If we're talking about a cherev of war, it already says v'nosati shalom ba'aretz. So why would the Torah write this other one? Afilu cherev shel shalom. You have to prevent from coming through. But he didn't understand that his door was not roy for it. The Gemara says something else. Ki havanache nafshe. When Yoshua was dying, he saw, Yirmiyahu Navi saw Yoshua Melech, his lips were moving, but he couldn't hear. Omar Shema Chas v'sholem milsa mahagna Omar agav tzari. Yirmiyahu Navi was wondering, maybe he's like cursing Hashem, maybe he's saying something not appropriate because of the tsar he's in. Gochin, so Yirmiyahu bowed down to go listen to his voice. He's doing Baruch Hashem Doyan Emes. And that's why it says in Eicha, Tzadiku Hashem Kifiu Marisi. Pasach ala Yirmiyah Ayishaita Ruach Apenu Mashiach Hashem. And that's why in the fourth parak in Sefer Eicha, Ruach Apenu Mashiach Hashem refers to Yoshua Melech. The Gemara in Tainis says, he got shot by so many arrows, it was like a sieve. Pasuk Lamed. Vayarkivu avadav meitz b'Megiddo. So the servants took his dead body from Megiddo. Vayaviu Yerushalayim. They brought him to Yerushalayim by Berubik V'raso, and he was buried in his grave. Vayikach am haaretz. The people, just like the people took him when he was 8 years old, and because they wanted a righteous king, they took Es Yehoachaz ben Yoshio. Yoshio had a son, Yehoachaz. And he was crowned the new king. He had dug his own grave, not because Ammon, the Russia, was not buried there. Now, why does it say Vayimshechu? So we've already learned Melech ben Melech don't need that. So Shlomo Melech needed it because the machlokas of Adoniyo. Remember, his brother Adoniyo tried to rule, so they had to anoint Shlomo with Shemen HaMishcha to show the nation he's the king. Yehoash also mipnei machlekuso shel Atalia. So Yehoiachaz was 2 years younger than the oldest brother Yehoiakim, who was 2 years older than him. So because they chose a younger brother, they had to do Mashiach for him. Just like the Amoritz chose Yoshio. They wanted, Yoshio was a tzaddik after Amon Rasha. They wanted the righteousness of Yoshio to continue, and they thought it would continue with Yoyachaz. He was mamali the mokum of his father more than Yoyakim. Some say Yoshio had already chosen Yoyachaz while he was alive, because he was the bechor for his mother, because he was his second wife. In Divrei Yomim, immediately after Yoshio's death, it says Vayikonein Yirmiyahu al Yoshio, that Yirmiyahu produced a kina, produced like a Avelis literature on the death of Yoshio. Rashi there says, whenever they would have Avelis, they would bring out this kina that they wrote about Yoshua Melech, and they would do it at that time. Similar to Tisha B'Av that we do. We talk about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, but we bring out, we talk about the Holocaust, we talk about the Crusades. This minig all started by Yikonein Yirmiyahu al Yoshio. The whole fourth parak of Megillas Eicha is this kina that Yirmiyahu wrote about Yoshio. So let's ask the question: why is the death of Yoshio such a big sorrow? That every time we are mekonein, we have a kina about Yoshua Melech as well during Tisha B'Av. Why is it so important every time we sit down and commemorate some type of tzara, we remember Yoshio? So the EIAM says, "Hamatzav shel Yisrael b'zmanahu haya shafel me'od." The situation for the Jewish people was very low. V'aisag zeirah shel churban Beis HaMikdash v'Eretz Yisrael muchenes lavo. Hashem is prepared to bring the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash ready to go. But Yoshio ishtadel me'od l'taken hamatzav. Yoshio sort of stands in the breach. He tries to be a solitary figure to stop it. V'garam liYisrael tshuva gdola. Achadayin lo nigmar tshuva. But the tshuva was complete. But ilu hayachai od, if he wouldn't have stumbled with this paranachon, if he would have lived longer, hayav shar sheyachol ligmor Yisrael yasu tshuva shlema. He might have caused tshuva shlema. Va'azit batelak zeirah shel churban Beis HaMikdash, and then there wouldn't have been a churban. Lefichach b'mitzaso, with his death, nevar efsharut zut. This was a opportune time which is now lost. Ki banav lo hayu tzadikim kamo. We're going to see soon. His children were not tzadikim like him. V'lo hayu ne'avim la'am shichlu l'grom tshuva kazu. They were not beloved to the people like he was. Nimtzad misas Yoshio haya goyim ha'achron l'churban Beis HaMikdash. This is like the Makeh b'Patish. This is the final goyim for the churban. V'zeh ha'tam shetamid anu tzrichim laskiro. And this for all the future sorrows, because remember, Bayis Sheni was also just a temporary reprieve. Once the Churban Bayis Rishon occurs, we are now in a 2,500-year Golus. With everything that's happened to the Crusades and the Tachvatat and Chmelnytsky and all the sorrows, this is the Makeh b'Patish to all the sorrows that have come to us. Here's another pshat, which I thought was remarkable. that Elon Hayan Nerag Yoshiyahu, the Hayaman he get Yisrael asot tshuva shlema. If there would have been a better tshuva because he was alive. Uchshegiazman binyan beis hasheni yen nase bofen yoser tov. It might not have averted the destruction of the first temple, but when they came back with Ezra to build Bayis Sheni, it would have been built in a better way, to the point machvazeh lo ichrav Bayis Sheni. And Rashi in Shir Hashirim, where it says bikashtiu v'lo metzasiu. So Rashi says you didn't come back. Valo Yirmiyah oimedu misnabe b'mei yoikom b'tzidkiyahu. You have Yirmiyah and Navi around, who's saying shuvu elai v'ashuv aleichem. So maybe lo levatel esagzera lo lahakel peronos, maybe make it easier, and maybe to make it better that when they come back from the Golus, they'll build it in a better way. So once Yoshua Melech was killed, and he was not able to get Yisrael, the Klal Yisrael, to do a tshuva, even Bayis Sheni is destroyed because of it. And that's why the death of Yoshua maybe is a shorish for even the Churban of Bayis Sheni. Let's move on from Yoshua Melech. Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Ben Esrim v'Shalosh Shana Yoachaz b'Malcho. This is, it's very important to keep track that Yoshua Melech has 3 sons. We said Yehoyakim, Yehoyachaz, and Tzidkiyahu. And then there's a grandson, Yehoyachin. And we're going to see where these 4 kings, the 3 children and the grandchild are going to be the next final kings leading up to the Churban. So it says, Ben Esrim v'Shalosh Shana Yoachaz b'Malcho, and only Shloisha Chadoshim Malach B'Yishlam. He only ruled for 3 months. V'Shem Imo Chamutal Bas Yirmiyah Milivna. Now, in Divrei Yomim, Uvnei Yoshiyahu, HaBechor Yochanan, HaSheni Yehoyakim, HaShlishi Tzidkiyahu, HaRevi Shalom. So we don't even have the name Yehoyachaz B'chlal there. So if we look at the Radak, he goes through in detail all of these children. He brings the Chazal from Hoirias Yud Aleph that Yochanan is Yehoyachaz. He's called the Bechor, because remember we said Yehoyakim was 2 years older than him. But here in Divrei Yomim, he's called the Bechor because he was the Bechor b'Malchus. He was the first king. Now, he didn't have 4 children, Revi, Shalom. No, Shalom hu Tzidkiyahu. There's another name for Tzidkiyahu. Omra Shlishi Tzidkiyahu. Shaya Shlishi Livnei Yoshua. He's the 3rd son of Yoshua Melech. Why does it say Revi Shalom? Because he was the 4th king that came from Yoshua. And why is he called Shalom? Sheshalmo Machus Baz Beis David Yav. He's the last king of Beis David. So it ends it.
Which one?
Oh, your Tzidkiyahu is called Shalom because I said Haravi Shalom. Well, the Gemara says that the name Tzidkiyahu is Shalom. So because at that point there's no more Malchus Beis David. The Radak in B'Divrei Yomim says Shalom is Yoyachin. He's the Ben Aben. He's the grandson. Okay, so let's talk about Yoyachaz. Vayasara b'nei Hashem k'chol asher asu avotav. He did not learn from his father. He rather followed his grandparents and great-grandparents, Menashe v'Amon. Vayasreyu paro necho b'rivla be'eretz Chamad. He was removed from kingship by Paro. Paro thinks that he's like ruling over the whole area. Then he took him to Rivla, and they put him into like chains. so he shouldn't come again to rule. Vayitein onesh al haaretz me'ar kikar kesef v'kikar zav, and he gave a tax that the Jewish people had to pay Paro. Some say it was a punishment that they coronated the younger brother in front of the older one. Why would Paro care about that? So the Radak learns Pashat Pshat that Yoyachaz wanted to revenge the death of his father by the hands of Paro Necho. And therefore he attacked Eretz Mitzrayim. So when he came back, Paro Necho met him in Hamat and he put him into prison. And the Yakar says that after Paro killed Yoshio, he thought that just like in the old days when a king would kill another king, he would sort of take possession of all of his land. So he thought it was in his power to anoint who would be the king of Yehuda, because he won in the war. And when the Amma Aretz anointed Yoyachaz without his permission, he says that I can get rid of that because he has power over it. And that's why he got rid of him, and he caused them to pay taxes. Pasuk Lamed Dalet. Vayamlech Paro Necho et Eliakim ben Yoshio. So Paro Necho puts another one of the sons, Eliakim. We'll see who that is. Tachat Yoshio Aviv, in place of his father. But he changed his name by Yasev et Shmo Yehoyakim. And that's the older brother. Vet Yoachaz lakach ve'avo Mitzrayim ve'yamat sham. He took Yoachaz, who had been his prisoner, and he died there in Mitzrayim. Ve'akesef ve'azahav natan Yehoyakim leParo. So this is now the second king, right? You have Yoshio, then he dies. You have Yoachaz, he dies after 3 months. And now you have Yehoyakim, who was really the Bechor. And he gives all the gold and silver to Paro. And he sort of collects it from the people in the land. Ish ke'erko, everybody according to his wealth. In order to pay Paro Necho all these taxes. Yoyakim ruled for 25 years. I'm sorry, he was 25 years old when he was anointed king, and he ruled for
11 years.
What was that?
He reigned for 11 years.
Yes, I said he was 25, and he reigned for 11 shana. B'shem imo Zvuda bas Padya min Ruma. Vayas hara b'nei Hashem k'chol asher asu avotav. This is why we mentioned the thing that if only Yoshio HaMelech would have stayed alive, maybe he would have been able to cause more people in Israel to do tshuva. And we can see this is why the Am Haaretz wanted the younger brother to rule, because Yoyakim, I guess the people's side was a Russia. There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, Amar Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Why does it say Ma'idich Siv Bereshis Mamlachos Yoyakim? And it also says Bereshis Mamlachat Tzidkiyahu. What do you mean? It sounds like this is the first time that Jewish people have kings. What, now there's no kings? Yoyakim was such an evil king, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to turn the world back to Tovavo. Nistakel bedoro v'niskar daito. But he looked in the generation and he cooled off. Nistakel b'tzidkiyahu v'niskar daito. Tzidkiyahu Melech was a tzaddik. And he allowed HaKadosh Baruch Hu to cool off his anger. So Yoyakim is a terrible Russia. And this brings us to Perek Chavdalid. And this will begin, first time that we'll mention the name Nebuchadnezzar, king of Bavel. We'll be introduced to him. And the beginning story of the Churban, which also took place in stages. A certain amount of Klal Yisrael were already taken exile before the final Churban. So we will learn how the Churban unveiled itself over time. Any comments, questions? He'aros.
Yeah, was this Yahuwah?
Yeah.
Was his mother was the daughter of Yirmiyahu?
No.
A different Yirmiyahu?
Different Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu is not an uncommon name.
I just have a question. It's right at the beginning when you said, why did they burn the bones? I don't understand. Or what's his name? Yoravam, what's his name?
No, we said
Why did they burn them? Why would he go and burn somebody's bones?
So we learned then that there was a nevuah given hundreds of years before by the Ish Elokim, either to Achav, I don't remember that a future king is going to arise and he's going to burn the bones of those who worshiped Avodah Zarah. So we learned last week that he unearthed the bones to burn, and it was Makayim, that nevuah, that was given by the Ish Elokim, that even the bones of these worshippers of Avodah Zarah would be burned. It's like, I think it's a metaphor to uproot Avodah Zarah even to the point that you burn the bones.
But we know who that Ish Elokim was. We don't know who it was.
His name was Ish Elokim. Remember? That was how then he was buried, and the Navi Sheker was buried next to him.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
Okay, shkoyach.
Oh, yeah, thank you.